This week on Pop of Culture, a statewide ceramics conference in Muncie.
And also, what does a set designer really do?
We're storytellers, we're like architects, we're, researchers.
And packing the iconic small businesses of Indianapolis into little 2x3 squares.
That's coming up.
Support for Pop of Culture comes from you. You've probably heard that Congress has defunded public media. For Ball State Public Media, that's 40% of our funding, about $1.4 million. So if you value this program, created by and focused on folks in your community, then now's the time to step up. This show will not exist without you. Become a monthly donor now at indianapublicradio.org.
From IPR, this is Pop of Culture. I'm Michelle Kinsey.
And I'm Jen Blackmer. Coming up this hour, a conversation with set designers who just happen to be identical twins.
Ooh, looking forward to that. But before that, the Indiana Clay Conference is a gathering of ceramic artists from across the state. It happens every 2 years, and this year it's in Muncie. Here to tell us all about it is Ted Neal, a professor of art at Ball State University, and this year's host of the event, right?
That's right.
Welcome to the studios, Ted.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me here.
Well, I suppose we should start at the beginning. I know the conference was created 2019, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Tell me a little bit about the history of the Indiana Clay Conference, Ted.
I know that historically, there are a lot of other states that have regional or area clay conferences, and I wasn't part of the origination of this conference, but I know very well the two people that started it, and that is Seth Green, who is currently a professor of art at Purdue Fort Wayne, and Justin Rothshank, who is a artist based in Goshen, Indiana. And so those two saw a need and established the Clay Conference in 2019 as a sort of partnership.
What was kind of the idea behind it? I know that on the website, there's a lot of talk about connecting the clay community. First of all, could you describe what the clay community is? I'm assuming it's everyone that kind of works in that medium, right?
Yeah, so we consider the community, it's quite broad. You can think about it in terms of universities, artists, art centers, arts professionals as our community. But also, really, no artist exists without their audience. So it's also a way of connecting our community with the general public in terms of education or access to work or things like that. And so this year, we've really placed an emphasis on trying to establish a stronger link between high school and secondary art programs and the universities statewide.
What do you teach? What do you normally teach? What's your area?
I run the gamut. I am the only ceramics instructor, except for while I'm on sabbatical. So I have a technical side to my expertise. I do kiln building, I do glaze calculation, chemistry, mold making, slip casting, and I do figure work and hand building and also utilitarian sort of functional design.
Wow. What are you working? Are you working on anything now? Do you stay busy and what are you working on?
Very much so. so busy. I mean, I spend a lot of my research has been around the technical aspects of ceramics. So kiln design and kiln building. Yeah. I've traveled to Poland. I just got back from China. I'm heading off again next month to fire a kiln that I built in Jingdezhen, China. And so I do a lot of traveling. I had 10 major projects this year. Which have sort of come to a halt around wintertime. Yeah. And then I have my own studio practice. So I have a home studio and I have a studio at the university where I produce utilitarian and mixed media ceramic work.
Wow.
And I do have people can look it up on my website, tednealceramics.com. Awesome. If they're so inclined.
I'm assuming you have been involved with the conference since day one, since 2019. Ted, tell me a little bit about the environment at a conference like this.
Well, I've been involved as a participant and as a volunteer, and so this is my first time hosting. And the environment of the conference is there's 3 or 4 major components. One is that we try to invite 4 or 5 major artists from the U.S. to be presenters. And so at a clay conference, that looks like demonstrations and discussion. So we'll have a main room where there'll be 2 head-to-head, if you will, demonstrators with banter between them and an audience in the background watching.
Oh, wow.
And so those presenters this year include Sam Chumley, who is an MFA alum, and Sarah Anderson, who is a BFA alum. And
we're talking about alums from Ball State University.
State alums,
yeah,
that is correct. And an artist named Susie Lindsay. We're trying to get a representative sample. And, I think we bring these folks in because of quote unquote star power within our community. Typically, we do focus or want to have a focus on artists who have had connections to Indiana, but we also have started to reach outside of that. And so it's especially with the exhibition, which we'll probably talk about in a minute, that is a juried exhibition that involves anyone that has ever participated or lived in or worked in or been in a program in the state of Indiana.
As a professor and an artist, what do you like most about bringing the community together, the clay community together?
As a maker and as an artist and as a teacher, it hits on all of those notes for me. I didn't get into teaching for money. Good laugh, right? I get in it because when I make things, and the experiences that I have when I'm making is a thing that I want to share. And so for me, art and teaching go hand in hand, and an opportunity to have a conference like this, it's just another avenue of teaching.
So talk a little bit about the public side of it and the opportunity for the public to enjoy parts of the conference.
So the main avenue that the public can see or experience ceramics is through the exhibition, The State of Clay. And that is actually in the Art and Journalism building on the main floor in the Ned and Gloria Greiner Gallery of Art. That is open during regular hours, and I believe we'll also have it open the entire weekend of October 4th and 5th.
Oh, great.
During the conference. And the public is welcome to that. And the awards ceremony and the jurors talk is that Saturday evening, I believe starting from 7 p.m. and running until 8:30.
Oh, wonderful. And will the State of Clay in Indiana, will that continue after the conference, or does it go down after?
It ends the evening of the conference, Sunday the 5th, because artists will take some of their work with them.
Right. So this is the 4th and the 5th. Are the days where the public really need to be aware of. You can go to the exhibit before the conference, and then from 7 to 8:30 is the gallery talk.
There'll be a reception with food that's open to the public, and a gallery talk and award presentation that evening on the Saturday the 4th.
Wonderful. So can you give us a little insight into what the public can see at the State of Clay in Indiana exhibit?
It's a really nice mix of functional and utilitarian work, and a lot of sculptural work as well. And, we opened the call for entries earlier this spring. When you think about an exhibition, it's not like we planned anything in specific. So the juror's job is to sort of coalesce a unified exhibition representing a swath of experience and different media, different ways of navigating clay.
Right. And you're talking, plates.
Plates, cups, bowls, sculptures. We have one artist who's making ceramic furniture. There's a beautiful piece in there that's a table and a lamp, and there's some figurative work as well. I know, it's the whole sort of spectrum of clay.
Wonderful. What are the challenges of hosting a conference like this? What did those bring, and what are you most excited about as being the host this year?
I'm just excited to walk in on the morning of, when all the I's have been dotted and T's crossed, because I'm a bundle of nerves right now. That's
you can't tell. You seem very calm and collected.
Thank you. I have been teaching for 20 years, so you can make it sound that way. But it's every other year, and I volunteered 2 years ago, so this has been on my radar for a couple of years. And I am currently on sabbatical, which was part of my application, was to be able to take the time to do this, have this event.
Yeah, to really focus. So how many people are you expected at the conference, to attend the conference?
We're anticipating 150 to 200 people.
Wow, that is amazing. That's amazing. Is there anything else that we should know about the conference in advance of this happening at Ball State?
If anyone's interested in coming to the conference, the website is indianaclayconference.com, and there's links to registration. And then in the future, I don't know that they've publicly announced this, but the next conference, anyone that's really interested in becoming involved, there's calls for all kinds of things where people can be actively involved if they're a clay artist or if they just want to volunteer. Typically, volunteers work a couple hours during the conference and they get free access.
Oh, wonderful.
So there are ways. That time for this conference has passed, but 2 years down the road, when that shows up again, people can actually be involved in the event if they want to.
Oh, that's great. You have a lot going on. Thank you so much for taking on the Clay Conference as well and offering this great opportunity for the community. Ted, thank you so much for telling us all about the Indiana Clay Conference.
Thank you very much.
Ted Neal is a professor of art at Ball State and the organizer of this year's Indiana Clay Conference.
You're listening to Pop of Culture. I'm Jen Blackmer. I am thrilled today to have a conversation with two Indiana natives who find themselves working across the country as scenic designers. I'd like to introduce Christopher and Justin Swader. Hello, Christopher and Justin. Welcome to Pop of Culture.
Well, thanks so much for having us. Oh, yeah, thank you. It's so great to be chatting with you.
We're thrilled to have you. And if you would, tell us about yourselves. Now, you were originally from Evansville, Indiana, correct?
We both grew up in Evansville, Indiana, and then I think growing up we were always intrigued by like theater and art, and I think our parents took us to see a lot of theater when we were young. They kind of encouraged us to take art classes and painting and drawing, and so I feel like we were kind of just naturally immersed in the arts in some way, and trying to soak up as much as we can in the Midwest. But I feel like, and then we, we're identical twins too, which is also like a fun fact. So like growing up, we always were like working together as a team. I feel like, in ways that we didn't even, I don't even know if we were conscious of it, but I feel like, where one of us would start drawing something and then the other one would naturally take it and add to it and draw on it. So it's like, I feel like, and it's funny because I feel like we're still doing that today, but we both grew up in Evansville, and then we went to Ball State where we met you, Jen, but as a faculty member, and we studied both directing and scenic design at Ball State. And I feel like that's where we really we almost didn't even study theater at Ball State. We almost like went there for graphic design. I think at the last minute we like kind of made a kind of pivot towards theater. And so I'm happy that we did. Yeah. Because it's like, I think we owe so much of like everything we've done up to now. I think it all ties back to everything we did at Ball State. The education and the people and the connections and just everything that we were able to kind of take from those experiences. We both came to New York right after graduating from Ball State, and then have been here since, and it's just been a home base for us. And then we're very lucky to be able to just work across the country in different theaters and both in New York and then regionally as well. So.
And again, I mean, some serious East Central Indiana connections and Indiana connections. And I'm glad you mentioned that you are identical twins, because this is obviously radio, so we're not able to see that. But I think there's a great energy that the two of you have in terms of having the same ideas, maybe finishing each other's sentences, and
it all just happens so naturally. We don't even. Sometimes people think that we plan that, and it's like I would imagine there's other siblings that are the same way, but for some reason the two of us always have a habit of one person will start a sentence and the other one will finish it. Yeah. I think we sometimes see people's reactions where they're a little they're taken aback by it, but I think after they spend enough time with us, they realize that's just kind of how we speak. So
that's awesome. Now, you had mentioned that you studied directing and scenic design here at Ball State University, and you have made a pretty incredible career, actually, over the last several years as scenic designers. And for our listeners who may not be as theatrically literate, what is your process? Now, we understand that scenic designers actually create the world on stage, right? But what does that entail for the both of you?
You want to jump in?
Yeah, well, I think for us is, we're storytellers, we're like architects, we're researchers. I feel like we're kind of like taking all of these skills as like, theater makers to
Kind of shape what the world is on stage. And I feel like, yeah, sometimes it feels like it's like a ton of different jobs all kind
of like rolled up into one. But I think for us, we just enjoy
the process of, for us, it's like, I guess like in terms of process, it always starts with reading the script and understanding the text and just getting a basis for like what this world might be on stage. And sometimes that's very clear, and sometimes it's like it's not clear at all. And it's our job then to work with the director and then the other collaborators to help shape what that world might be. And so I feel like especially with new plays, the plays that have never been done before, which I think is our favorite.
And that actually, you hit upon this, but as somebody who writes plays, there's nothing more exciting for somebody who spends their time with the words of the play than to sort of see that come to life, right? To see this thing that maybe you've just written about and what another artist, in your case, artists, will do with those words, like how those words then get interpreted into an actual physical space, right?
Yeah, we're always excited. We're always like curious to know, like, and I think I'm sure it's different for every playwright, but like if playwrights when they're creating their work, are they imagining? Did they have a clear visual of what they are writing?
Are they seeing very clear pictures of like exactly what it looks like on stage, or almost like the movie version of what that might be?
Or is it just more abstract? We always like to
when we can have a conversation with like a living playwright in the process, we always kind of start with some of those questions, just because I feel like it's helpful for us to know,
like, what were they like what was that piece of inspiration? Is there any piece of inspiration that inspired you when you were writing this, or is there some kind of visual that comes to mind? Or
And for some of them, I mean, if I throw myself into that mix, it's abstract almost. Like, how do you then envision a play that takes place inside somebody's head, let's say, in a really sort of unusual, unrealistic space. So why don't you go into just a little bit more detail, because you mentioned that you are that you do research and that you're also sort of architects. And again, some of our listeners might not know as to the extent of how it works. So you don't actually build the sets, you design them and then create plans. So talk a little bit about what that process is like.
It all starts from research, and I guess we'll pull research from like so many different sources. We'll pull it from photographs and it could be a Google search image, or it could also be like going to the library and pulling out a book and suddenly kind of like seeing inspiration from that. And then it's also just taking inspiration from the script as well. But I think there's so much. There's again, inspiration can come from so many different places. But I think that's the research is like the very first part of the process for us. And then I think once we'll take a lot of those images and we'll share them with the director, whether it's in person or over email, and there's a lot of back and forth that happens about. We always just want to know like what is exciting to them about what they're starting to see, and how we can maybe start to find some common denominators with like how certain images may kind of start to inform what the world looks like. And I think that usually after a conversation or two, we can start to realize, okay, these are the things that are really like exciting this director, and then I think we can take that, and then sometimes that we'll let all that wash over us, and the ideas will naturally come from that research, and then sometimes it may pivot in a totally different direction, but everyone may like spark something for the director that they were never imagining. So it's no process is the same, but I think we'll the two of us work a lot in, sometimes it's just sketching on paper and drawing ideas out. And then, we work in a bunch of different programs online that can help visualize ideas. So, and there's so much technology now with designing in 3D that we can literally basically kind of create the whole theater and start to like, build scenery out of, very, very quickly in a way. And so that then we're able to show a director exactly how something will look in the space and pan around. And sometimes we'll build an actual model too, that we're like a physical model. And it's like, again, it's like very tedious, like cutting things out of wood and mat board and foam core, and like taking that and then creating almost the equivalent of like blueprints and architectural drawings for exactly how something, needs to be built, and giving very detailed instructions to how, down to like, what does the doorknob look like and what kind of door casing is going around the door. So I think that part of the process is always really fun for us, because we can be very detail oriented and make decisions that I think will just kind of like make the design even stronger. So, and then it's sending that off to a whole other team of people that we trust and that will take our design and then realize it. And then it's all about conversations back and forth about sharing. Sometimes we'll go into a theater and we'll visit and we'll see progress. Sometimes it's just about, we'll just get photos sent to us back and forth. But I feel like it's extremely rewarding to know that there's so many hands that go into making something that yes, we will initially kind of start and be very specific about, but at the end of the day, so many other people have touched it and they've added their own little special kind of artistic touch. So and I feel like that's extremely it's inspiring to see all those people contributed to creating this.
That is really incredible when that happens, and that people are coming together to create a thing that you've envisioned in your head. How does it feel when you walk into a space and you see it in its real form? How does that feel for you?
Well, a lot of times it's very surreal, because we're so used to looking at something on a computer
screen or
in miniature form, that I feel like it never gets old every time we walk into a space for the first time.
Especially something with scale. I think we just did a production of Romeo and Juliet at Hartford Stage, and I just remember I think no one else was in the theater. It was just me walking in. I came in the back and I snuck around and walked into the theater, and it was so special because that was a very tall set. We went about as tall as we could go with that. And I remember Justin calling me and saying, "It's just so big. Everything is just so big." And, so I think in a good way. We were I think it was very it was so surreal, seeing something that we'd gotten so used to seeing on a much smaller scale, and then seeing it in real scale. It was just very
exciting.
We were and so we love that part of the process. Especially when we do just kind of show up and everything's just done, or it's just there.
Yeah, exactly. And theater, I say this all the time. It's the sum of a whole lot of people putting time, energy, and effort into it. And sometimes it just takes on a life of its own, right?
Yeah,
from the writing perspective, there have been moments and scenes in plays where the scene is going really well, and I was like, wait, I didn't write that. And I did. And it's just that exciting kind of collaboration between new visions, new voices coming in and putting it together. Yeah.
No, I know. Sometimes you never know. I feel like it's also we're so used to the unexpected, just being prepared for the unexpected. Because I feel like there's been so many instances where when you have all those creative minds working together, I feel like there's always going to unlock something that we can't necessarily prepare for.
Yeah. Do you always work together?
We do. I feel like it's always, I'll say lately, it's been in terms of designing, the design process is always together. And I feel like it's always the two of us usually sitting together, we'll both read a play separately, but then I think immediately, the two of us will start spitballing ideas back and forth.
And coming together to really kind of start to understand together, okay, what are the things that are exciting to us? And then in actual production, there may be also times where just one of us goes to see the set or to be in the tech process. And again, I feel like we're so used to it, and we're so usually so in sync with each other that I think there's never any concern that the wrong that we're going to go the wrong direction, or I feel like there's just a lot of trust in each other.
Right. And we've spoken on this program a lot when we talk about theater as a collaborative art form, is that the network is a large part of how a theater artist gets jobs and builds a career. So when folks hire you, do they know what they're getting? I guess. Do
I
you?
think so.
Yeah.
And we're always up. Yeah, we're always up front because we want people to know that, like, yes, they are getting two minds and two kind of like sets of eyes on the work. And there's so many instances where like where it does come in handy to have two people around, and then
Yeah.
splitting up to one person can be in one city, one person can be in another city, and like there can be some crossover.
And now the two of you choose to live in New York, but you do work all over the country. And what do you feel are some of the differences you might encounter while working in, say, Minneapolis or Indianapolis, working in some of those communities rather than New York City? What are some of the differences?
I feel like for the most part, the process is usually the same. I think the differences that we come up with sometimes, I think New York, it's so easy to like, and this is a very specific thing, but like I feel like it's just something we encounter a lot. In New York, I feel like if we are designing something and we know that we need a specific material for the show, usually, I guess in New York, we're able to like very easily, acquire that and have it. And I think we realize like in some theaters, some places that we go to, that's not the case. But like I guess in terms of like process, it all feels about the same. And I feel like luckily we're the kind of work that we do, we can kind of be anywhere. We're sitting on our couch right now, which kind of somehow becomes our desk in a way of like, we can design something from our kind of our home base in New York, send it off. And we were just back in Indiana several weeks ago visiting our family, and while we were there, we were working on in meetings and working on projects. And so I feel like, luckily, I guess like the kind of work that we do, we can be kind of mobile and anywhere.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Sure, and we've hit upon that too with a lot of conversations we've had. Is that the difference, I think, now, as opposed to even 10 years ago, is that sense of mobility, right? That you can, in fact, you can write something or draw something and then email it, and the person has it immediately, and then you can have a conversation like the one we're having right now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we're so. I mean, again, we I think about, again, like you said, 10 years ago, having a conversation. I mean, I can think of the two of us getting on a bus and early in the morning, going all the way to Boston on the bus to get there for one meeting that lasted an hour long, and then we get back on the bus all the way back. So it's like I feel like, and that totally now no one would ever think to they would say like, let's save the money and let's just do this over Zoom. And so it's just did it, we made it work, and it's just it's just different climate and different way of getting. So I do feel like there's a lot of advantages to like how technology can help make things more mobile.
Okay.
Yeah.
So next question, I want individually. Okay. So I'm going to ask Christopher this question first, and maybe it's the same answer, maybe not. But Christopher, what is your favorite design that you've done and why?
So several years ago, we did a play that was written by Teresa Rebeck, a play called Dig, that was all set in kind of like this dying plant shop. And we did the play for the first time in Dorset Theater Festival in Vermont. And then, COVID happened, and the play then transferred to New York City off Broadway. And we were able to kind of remount that production and give it a slightly different, slightly modified design. And I think for that, the challenge was like, really creating this naturalistic space on stage that felt like the audience was sitting inside this plant shop with a full ceiling overhead. And so I think that was, for us, it was, the two of us always enjoy the kind of the work that we can do that really makes the audience feel like they're kind of like transported and sitting right there. So that was a fun challenge for us. And I always think back to that design as feeling like a really like successful and rewarding process.
Nice. And okay, so Justin, same question. Is it the
You know,
same answer?
That's another. It's another highlight, but I'll also bring up another play that, like, I'll say it's something on the opposite end of the spectrum, like a play that is less naturalistic, a little more on the abstracted side. Like we did a design of The Tempest at Alabama Shakespeare Festival, and it was another really rewarding experience because it was just a great team of designers that we were collaborating with, and it was about. We had done that play before with a totally different design, totally different direction. This was all like we created this giant like shipwreck on stage of this old ship that kind of became a giant playground, like this giant like wooden structure that actors could climb on and appear in and perch on. And everyone worked together on that. I think it was just a very special experience. And the exciting thing is we're working with that director right now, Rick Dildine, who is directing at Children's Theater Company, doing the play Treasure Island. So it's so nice to be reunited with him, and then a lot of those other collaborators on that play.
And so, and our listeners, if they are so inclined, can see photos of both of these productions, as well as many, many more that you've done at your website, which is cjswaderdesign.com. And that is it's a great way to get a sense of not only your work, but also I think what set designers do. Again, for folks who may not know a whole lot about this role in the theater. So in your view, how can we cultivate thriving artistic scenes outside of New York in places like Evansville and Muncie, which you're both familiar with? What are some of the things that we can do in these smaller communities to really cultivate an artistic mindset?
I think well, and some of this is I think is just attending as much theatrical productions as possible. Visiting, I think of all the things that we did when we were younger that inspired us. But I feel like, I feel like there's so many great museums and like historic homes that you can go in, and like community theaters and high school theater. And I think of all. But I also think it goes back to education too. I feel like the two of us were not involved in sports a lot growing up, so it's like I feel like that arts are where we excelled, and I feel like where we like felt at home. The more that the arts can be celebrated, the more that like it can bring more to awareness and kind of excitement and passion for it.
Because there's so many things that who knows if we hadn't been exposed to theater or painting or drawing, like I just don't know, who knows what we like. I don't know where we would be now if that wasn't a part of our life growing up. So.
And you mentioned different kinds of spaces too, which I think is lovely. You mentioned museums and sort of getting out into the community and looking at how those spaces affect your, what you're doing and the people you're with and all of that space is an important part of communal activities, right? The idea of a show like Dig, if you hadn't spent time in flower shops or in nature or around plants or what have you, right? That may be a little bit more difficult for you to envision. But even I think more abstract things as well, that if you get out and try and experience unusual or different things, that's a way to begin to shift your thinking about that.
The two of us have a habit, we're like constantly taking pictures of stuff we see. Like if we see like an old like decaying building or like they're on the side of the road, or if we're walking around and we see like some kind of interesting way that something's been naturally distressed.
I think we take inspiration from all over. So I think that for us, it's like whenever we get stuck on an idea in some way, that we'll take a walk and find some kind of inspiration. So.
Well, that's just excellent. And Christopher and Justin Swader, I cannot thank you both enough for your time, for your energy in talking with us today. It's been such a lovely conversation. Can you tell us about your upcoming projects? So I know that you're going to be in Minneapolis soon, and Vermont, you mentioned. So what's your project coming up in Minneapolis?
So we're getting ready to work on a production of Treasure Island, an adaptation that is very truthful to the source material. And I think and this is at Children's Theater Company in Minneapolis, which is a theater that we've always admired the work that they've done from afar. Yeah. And this is our first time collaborating there. So
we're really excited for the opportunity and just, again, being able to work with a great team, a really strong vision that the director has for this.
And production. To bring it and to do a show that really is geared towards young audiences, which I think is inspiring to us just because that's how we got into this. Very early on, we were told when we all met, the whole team met together, it was like the director really encouraged everyone to think about like,
how do you design this for your 10-year-old self in some way? So I think we were really, I think everyone was kind of delighted to think about that in that way.
Well, that's wonderful, and we can't wait to continue to follow your careers. And we know not only because you're from Evansville, but also you have ties to East Central Indiana as well, that I'm sure we'll be seeing you in this part of the country at some point soon. Christopher and Justin Swader, thank you so much for your time with us today on Pop of Culture.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having us. It's so great reconnecting with you as well.
It's Pop of Culture.
I'm Jen Blackmer.
And I'm Michelle Kinsey. It's time for our weekly segment, What Are You Working On? Here's our producer, Luke Jones.
Creativity can benefit from limitations. The materials you use, the time you have to create, or even the size of your canvas. A new gallery exhibition in Indianapolis is called Indy In Inches, and the artist Sun-Young Gullery is here with us. Hi, Sun-Young.
Hi, Luke. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thanks for being on. Can you describe for our listening audience what the paintings in this show are?
Yes. Each of my paintings are showcasing a storefront of a local Indianapolis business. And each painting is 2 inches by 3 inches, really small, and just these kind of miniature versions of these locations that we have grown to love in our city.
Yeah. So 2 questions. First, 2 inches by 3 inches is so tiny. Why? You're like, yeah, I know. Why was that the decision you made?
Well, there's a couple of reasons, actually. Number one is that I am a full-time teacher and a mom of 2 young boys that are very rambunctious and have a lot of energy. And so this, over the last few years, has been my way to still create art at home and at work. You know, I can work a little bit here, a little bit there, and I still feel this like wonderful satisfaction when I still finish a painting, right? But if I was working on something really large that took weeks or months to complete, I don't get that feeling as much.
Yeah.
You know, so by doing something small and finishing in just a couple hours of 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, when I have the time, it's just that wonderful feeling. And then my other reason is because for this series especially, they're all storefronts of local businesses. And I don't know very many people who would want a large 2 feet by 3 foot canvas in their house of their favorite restaurant, you know, or coffee shop, or, you know, like, I don't know if anyone wants that on their wall, but having something small, just like sitting by your, you know, by your coffee station in your kitchen is really lovely, right? And it's just a little nod to something that you love about your city.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, you've mentioned a couple times now, all of them are small businesses. I know there's also a couple landmarks in Indianapolis that you've painted.
Right.
Why those subjects? Why did you pick that as the series?
For the most part, it started with one coffee shop, Foundry Provisions downtown, and I just loved the red brick on it. It was just pretty, you know. It kind of started with that, just a beautiful little building that I was like, this will be fun to paint, you know?
Yeah.
And it was sort of selfish in that way. And then, you know, the whole point of this show and why I chose businesses was not just the selfish reasoning of, oh, I like that place, so that's what I'm going to pick. The point of it was also, how can we honor these businesses that make Indy Indy? You know, that was a big part. It started off just, oh, that's pretty, I want to do that. But it became so much more than that. You know, Indianapolis would be, it's a Midwest town. It would be full of department stores and fast food chains, and it is already full of those things. But by honoring the small businesses, those are the places that we want to go to when we visit another city, right? Like when people come here, we say, oh, you got to try this coffee shop.
Yep.
You know, so those are the places that I wanted to really honor in this. And that's why I didn't paint any fast food chains, right? Or larger restaurants. I wanted to keep it as small as possible. So that's really what the show is all about, is honoring and saying thank you to those business owners that have made our city what it is.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because when someone asks, what do you like about your city? I'm based in Muncie, and I never say, oh, like the, insert chain here on this street.
Right.
I say, oh, I love this coffee shop. You have to go.
Exactly.
There are 56 of these paintings in total. That's right? 56 of them?
Yep, correct.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. But you kind of talked about, you started by painting Foundry Provisions, and then you added more. I read it took you about a year. After you did the first one, did you start with the intention of, okay, I'm going to do all of these small businesses, or did you do like 5 of them and then realize like, hey, I could make a series out of this? How did that process work?
Yeah, it was more like what you just said. It was, I had done Foundry Provisions and I just thought it was so darn cute that I wanted to do a couple more. And then, the way I work is, because I'm an art teacher and I'm around all kinds of different media all the time, I'm always jumping between different things. My students are using pen and I'm using pen. My students are using ink and I'm using ink, or, we switch around and do different things. So definitely I did a few. And then I had heard from Harrison Center that, hey, we want to have you in our city gallery, in a year and some, whatever it was. And I said, oh, okay, this is perfect. I can use it. And so I just decided, okay, my goal is to do at least about 1 a week or so. And I think I might have enough to make a nice show. And so that's what I did.
Nice. So you mentioned the show. Let's get the details, if you have them in front of you, where folks can see Indy in Inches.
So Indy In Inches will be in the City Gallery at the Harrison Center, which, if you don't know where that is, that's at 1505 North Delaware. And that's on October 3rd, which is their opening first Friday night from 6 to 9 p.m.
Nice. And then it's up through the end of October, correct?
Yes, I believe so. And then you can still, I think it'll still be open for purchases through the month of November as well.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, nice. And we're talking about your really small works, but you've also, if I'm correct, had works displayed across Indy, like some in like window covers, I believe, like very large. How does it feel to have your work shown in that way? I mean, you have a gallery, but how does it feel to have work shown out in the public where folks just walking by will see it at a large scale?
It's really cool because I have been a teacher now for a while and I've always loved art. And I always thought in the back of my head that I would love to make art full time and to be a full-time artist. And now I feel like I still love teaching. I'm not leaving teaching anytime soon, but I really am starting to see maybe the hope that when I'm retiring or later on down the road, that I could be doing this so much more. And that's just really exciting. And so when the Indy Arts Council, they ask artists to apply for these sidewalk galleries. And so one of my watercolor and ink floral paintings was chosen, and it's really cool. And when I walk by, and my husband and my kids went over and took pictures in front of it, and I'm just like, wow, someone might walk by this and love the bold color and want to take a selfie in front of it. And I did that, and it's a lovely feeling. It gives me hope for myself, selfishly. It gives me hope for myself being able to do more of this in the future.
No, absolutely. That's amazing. All right. Indy in Inches is 56 miniature paintings by Sun-Young Gullery. The gallery opens Friday, October 3rd. It's open through the end of October. Sun-Young Gullery is an artist and a teacher in Indianapolis. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really a pleasure.
Jen, it is time for the arts calendar. Lots of things to see and do and experience this weekend and beyond. Let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
The Maybell Music Festival is Saturday, October 4th at Elm Street Brewing Company and Seven Rock Brew in Muncie. The 5th annual fest celebrating women in music will feature 17 female-led acts, as well as poetry, monologues, and murals. Yep. Muralists from across the country will be painting a bus live during the event. There will also be vendors, food, tasty beverages, booths, games, an arts garden, and much more. Fest hours are 2 to 10 p.m.
Can't wait. That sounds awesome.
Good times.
The exhibit, Portraits, Voices of Silence, New Works by Michael Eldon DuQuette, opens Friday, October 3rd at A-Town Center in Anderson. And if you recognize that name, that is not an accident. Michael is the husband of our co-host, Cara DuQuette. Yep. This exhibit will run through the end of October. Known for his evocative blend of visual art, poetic overlays, and conceptual storytelling, DuQuette's latest body of work explores the quiet power of presence, absence, and transformation.
It's Community Day at the Ball State football game on Saturday, October 4th. The fun begins at Charlietown at 10 a.m. Stop by and see the Pop of Culture crew.
That's
yes,
us.
You heard that correctly. We will be there on the concourse beginning at 11 a.m. with lots of swag, Bob Ross themed activities. And did I mention swag?
I was going to say swag.
We have
we got
really
swag.
cool swag.
Yeah, we have
so
lots of
join
swag.
us. Please stop by and say hello.
We will be there. Cannot wait to see you.
The Human Library will be at Oakhurst Gardens on Sunday, October 5th. Check out a human book and have a conversation with someone you may not talk to otherwise. The bookshelf is always different and they add new titles all the time. It's all about unjudging and learning something new about someone else and yourself. The library will be open 1 to 4 p.m.
This event is one of my favorites.
Very
and
cool.
To hear stories from someone else is just truly inspiring in this way. I love it. All right, Winchester's Main Street Festival is on through Saturday, October 4th. The event includes live entertainment, delicious food, fun activities for the entire family, and more.
Great. Pendleton Pride is Saturday, October 4th at Falls Park. The event includes vendors, drag performances, live music, and more from noon to 4 p.m.
All right, Michelle, you ready?
Yep. Let's do the time warp again.
All right, the Rocky Horror Picture Show's 50th anniversary celebration. I can't believe that. 50th anniversary celebration with Patricia Quinn, the OG Magenta, is Saturday, October 4th at Old National Center in Indianapolis. The fun begins at 7:30 p.m. and will include a screening of the original unedited movie with a live shadowcast and audience participation, of course, a costume contest, and more. Don't forget your toast.
That's exactly right.
All right, if you have an event pop listeners should know about, including or not including toast,
Yes.
let us know about it at indianapublicradio.org/contact, then click Pop of Culture.
Support for Pop of Culture comes from you. You've probably heard that Congress has defunded public media. For Ball State Public Media, that's 40% of our funding, about $1.4 million. So if you value this program, created by and focused on folks in your community, then now's the time to step up. This show will not exist without you. Become a monthly donor now at indianapublicradio.org.
And that was our 80th show.
Woo! Our executive producer is Angie Rapp.
This week was produced by Luke Jones, who's starting to think everyone is on sabbatical except for him.
With production assistance from Andrew Montavon.
Our show was hosted by me, Jen Blackmer.
And me, Michelle Kinsey. Pop of Culture is a production from IPR on the campus of Ball State University.